Hello, breakaway entrepreneurs, and welcome to the show. Before I jump right into this week's episode, I want to extend a personal invitation to join me in the Break Room Zoom party. Twice a month, I host a gathering of entrepreneurs. You get to promote your business, network with other entrepreneurs, and get exposure when the party is published as an episode on the podcast. Go to www.breakawaybusinesscoaching.com to learn more and to sign up. It's free, and all the cool business owners are doing it. I'll see you at the next Break Room Zoom party. Talking about retirement is boring, right? Well, not with Matt Franklin. This week, Matt shares his experience on Shark Tank, how it led to a financial windfall, which he immediately spent. He learned from that mistake and now has fully funded his retirement. In his podcast, Rouge Retirement Lounge, Matt shares his insights, expertise, and passion with entrepreneurs on how to retire rich. Thanks, Matt, for my new favorite saying. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. I hope you enjoy our chat. All right, welcome to the podcast. This afternoon, I am super excited because we are going to be talking about retirement. Like, who doesn't love to talk about retirement? If you're not super excited about it after today, you certainly will be. So my special guest today is Matt Franklin. And well, Matt, let me first say hello before I launch into telling everybody all about you.
Hey, Janet, how are you?
I am doing fantastic. Okay, let me tell everybody a little bit about you, and then let's get into your story because I think it's a fascinating one, and I know that my listeners absolutely can benefit from what you can bring to them. So Matt Franklin is a serial entrepreneur. Hey, I am too. Well, I can't say serial, 2005 on, but I too am a serial entrepreneur from Portland, Oregon. He's run a one-man video production company since 2006, and he's a part-time product developer. His most successful product landed him on Shark Tank in season 4. All right, I happen to know Kevin Harrington. I used to run in some of the same circles as him, so I know a little bit about Shark Tank. Tell us what it was like. Well, I'm just going to jump right into tell us what it was like being on the show, and then we'll get a little bit more into you and who you serve and what you love to do and all of that. But like, I'm interested. Tell us a little bit about what it was like being on Shark Tank and what was the product that you brought.
Okay, well, the product we brought was a posture improvement device called Posture Now.
Yeah, and
every time you say the word posture, all of a sudden everybody says, "Oh," and they put their shoulders back and they realize, "Oh, I've been slouching since
That's me.
Yep, and so that was our product, and the experience was, if you've ever skydived or skydove, boy, I never thought about that. If you've ever gone skydiving, it is a mixture of adrenaline like you can't even imagine and terror like you can't even imagine. It's this conflicting thing where it's completely awesome at one point and completely terrifying. And that's what being on Shark Tank is like. You walk out there, you see those 5 people, you've been watching them on TV for years, and then they start coming at you. And in our case, on our appearance, we were met with some hostility. Like Damon essentially said that he didn't like us and that we shouldn't even be on the show. And so
that's confidence producing right there.
Yeah, exactly. And then Damon actually revealed that he had purchased our product a couple of years ago and had worn our device on set for a previous taping of the show. And so it's like, dude, and he said it works, but he still didn't like us. That's how unlikable apparently we were when we made that appearance.
So I take it they didn't give you a lot of money.
Well, on television, we after everybody had basically told us that they weren't interested, Cuban just jumped in and he's like, "Hey, I'll do it. Let's do a deal." And then we hugged, and then the producers made us hug again to look better, and then and that the rest is history.
And that history is you got funded, and that's what you do for a living right now.
No, actually, as it turns out, and one little known secret, or maybe it's becoming more and more known, is that the majority of those deals that you do see on Shark Tank don't end up coming to fruition.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, given what I know. But it makes great TV. But when you get to the I's and the T's, A lot of that doesn't
Exactly.
happen. All
Yeah.
right. So what are you doing now? Tell us a little bit about your serial entrepreneur journey.
Well, I've been an entrepreneur since 2006. The day that Google announced that it was going to be buying YouTube for $1.65 billion in the spring of 2006, it was like it punched me in the face. That was the moment. I literally went into my office. I wrote up a resignation letter, went to my boss, and I was like, dude, here's 60 days notice. Did you hear about YouTube getting purchased by Google? And he's like, no. And I said, it's 1.65 billion. In 2006, 1.65 billion was real money. And I thought web video is going to be the next thing. So I knew how to run a camera a little bit, and I knew how to do a little editing. So I decided I'm going to start a video production company. And that's what I've been doing kind of as my bread and butter for the last 15 years.
All right. So do you work primarily with entrepreneurs?
I do not. I work primarily with tech companies.
Okay.
So like I've been doing training videos and marketing videos for like Intel, Microsoft, Tektronix, people like that.
Got it. And so tell me how you got into the entrepreneurial world of what your podcast is about and how you're serving that community.
Well, after being on Shark Tank, we had kind of a windfall. It was kind of an amazing experience to go from selling 5 or 6 products to selling thousands of them. And a lot of money came in. And as a result, because I was an idiot, I started spending a lot of that money. In fact, all of it. We were going on trips to Europe. Like every year, we'd be like, okay, let's go to Europe. And in the process, after 5 or 6 years of this, I realized, wait a minute, I've just thrown away tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, on wasteful travel and the like. And I am no closer to retirement than I was 5 years ago. And it was like that kind of wake up moment, like I just screwed myself. And right at that point, I'm like, I need to A, increase my savings, but also B, I need to improve my returns. I need to figure out a way to massively improve my returns, or I'm going to be working until I'm 75. And then I started researching, studying, listening to podcasts, buying every real estate book I can, et cetera, et cetera. And long story short, I ended up selling all my stock, all my mutual funds, everything that was related to the market, went full in on real estate, bought some houses in the Midwest, got into some apartment syndications. And then last year, as I was running the numbers, I realized that, when I turn 59 and a half, which is 6 years and about 10 months, I'm going to be able to retire and I don't have to put any more money in to my retirement. And right then it was like that, the pressure's off. Everything's cool now. I don't have to work as hard. And so I started firing clients, and I started thinking about, I need to do a blog or a podcast, because I still, even though I've got this kind of worked out for myself, I'm still obsessed with investing and retirement planning. So I needed an outlet, and I started a podcast called the Rouge Retirement Lounge, which is all about retirement planning specifically for entrepreneurs. It's not for people who have the 401k. It's not for people who have the TSP or the government pension. This is for us entrepreneurs who don't really know how they're going to manage their retirement.
No, and so I love that. And that's why I wanted to have you on, because I have a 401k because I quit my corporate job in 2005, and I'm a little bit older than you, so I have a few more years of that. So I have a 401k, but then you become an entrepreneur and you never even think about like saving for retirement. I, like you, I love real estate, so I've invested in a lot of real estate, so I have assets, but I don't necessarily, most of my clients don't necessarily plan for retirement. So I want you to talk about what you talk about on your podcast, or talk about what are the 3 biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make, or the 3 most important things for entrepreneurs to do wherever they are in their journey, to think about retirement, because most of them are just thinking about making money. They're not thinking about, and then like you, they make a whole lot of money and then they go buy a boat or go on vacation.
Yep.
And then they're like, okay, what am I going to do so talk about what you talk about what your recommendations are for entrepreneurs. And okay, do that first and I'll ask you another question.
Okay. Well, one of the main things that you can do as an entrepreneur is the beautiful solo 401k. Okay. So many people have not heard of this. My accountant never even suggested this. I found out about it through listening to podcasts, but the solo 401k is this self-directed IRA. Essentially, technically it's not an IRA. It really is a 401k. But basically, if you are a solopreneur, you can have your own 401k plan. And inside that 401k plan, if it's self-directed, you can write checks and buy real estate within that 401k plan. And I have most of my friends are self-employed, and none of them have a solo 401k plan. And I try to hit them over the head. It's like, if you've got a SEP through like E-Trade, yeah, you can buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs, but you can't buy things like real estate. You can't buy into an apartment syndication. You're kind of hobbled. So the first thing I say is once you're really serious, once you've got a little bit of money, I really recommend, if you are a solopreneur, to do that solo 401k. That's kind of the basic big one.
So tell me where this falls on the scale. I, as an entrepreneur, I pay myself. So I'm a W-2 for my own company. Right. And I pay myself the littlest amount that the IRS will allow me because I don't want to pay more payroll taxes. Right. So Janet Fish gets paid by Breakaway Enterprises, which is my company. I have also set up a 401k in my company that matches what I put into my 401k. Where does that fall on the scale of that's the number one thing you should do, or that like the last thing you should do?
Oh, well, to me, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, that's highly advanced, because you're set up as a corporation so that you can do that kind of stuff. A lot of us are sole proprietors, and I'm
please don't say that.
or are running a single person LLC. And that's when the solo 401k enables you to kind of get some of those advantages without having to do all those the corporate structures of a C corp or S corp.
Well, and I just to be honest, I will just say, I coach all of my clients, all of them, if they are serious about a business, to have a corporation, to have an S corp or a C corp. Most of them aren't big enough to do a C corp, but I'm just going to say right now, if you're a solopreneur, your liabilities and risks are huge, because if someone sues you, they don't really look at you as a company. And I won't go into all of that because I've talked about that before. So I would just say, if you're out there and you're not a C corp or probably an S corp, you should think about that. But what other things? Okay, so you've talked about a couple of vehicles. Mm-hmm. For how you would do that. Mine more sophisticated, yours let's just start there. Can you talk, because we talk about mindset a lot on this podcast, can you talk about how you work with the people on your podcast or the people that you talk to on the mindset of, because a lot of people would say, I'm not ready for it. Or I just don't know how to do it. Or, I mean, we've all got an excuse why we're not doing it, but a lot of people would say, I'm not making enough money to do it. So talk about how you deal with kind of that mindset or those objections that people have in their own businesses to creating their retirement.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've found that in talking to a lot of self-employed people, there's four main reasons that self-employed people are so bad about their retirement planning. One is just the variable nature, for a lot of self-employed people who don't have a steady W-2, situation like you've got, where you've maybe got a set salary.
I do.
For 90% of us, it's a feast or famine. 1 month you'll have 40 grand in the bank, and then the next month you might have 400 in the bank. And therefore there's that variable nature. It makes it really difficult to figure out exactly how much you're going to save and have a saving schedule. And that is a big thing for a lot of people, because back when you had the corporate job, you had it just automatically taken out of your paycheck and it was easy. And then we quit our job, we start our business, and then we just stopped thinking about it. Another thing that hobbles people is that they think that their business is going to be their retirement. They believe that, 10 years from now, my business is going to be so successful, I can either sell it or I can put it on autopilot. I've read Michael Gerber, so I'll have all the systems in place that it can run on autopilot, and it'll just pay me ad infinitum. Unfortunately, the statistics will show you that the odds of that, unfortunately, are very low. And we won't want to get into that. That's negative, but it is what it is. Reason number 3 is that people say to me all the time, well, I love what I do, so I want to keep doing it. I don't want to quit. I love it. And to them, I just say, well, if you love it, how much more would you love it if you didn't have to do it? If you were doing it because you love it rather than doing it because you have to pay the rent. And, I believe that for most people, if you're doing what you love because you love it rather than because you're forced to due to financial needs, it makes it a lot more fulfilling. Or it might reveal that you don't love it that much and that you wanted to really follow your passion and do something else. So to them, I say, okay, yeah, you may love it, but still save up and make yourself ready to retire so that when you're 65 or 62, you can have the option of continuing to love that or do something different.
Yeah, I'll just say, I love what I do when I have $1 million in the bank more than I love what I do when I have $10,000 in the bank.
Absolutely.
Right?
Exactly. And a lot of us are in a state of denial. I mean, I know that when I started my business, I thought, oh, this is great. I love doing it. I love the travel. I love this. I love that. And then 15 years later, I'm like, wow, I hate the travel. I hate the clients,
I'd love to take a month off and not do it. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then the last,
4, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's all good. The number 4 is that nobody teaches you how to plan your retirement if you're an entrepreneur. When I started my business, I read all the entrepreneur books. I went to programs. I went to the Jack Canfield and the Tony Robbins, and I bought the program, like the Dean Graziosi guys and the Brendan Burchards, all of those. In all of the books and all of the programs and all of the workshops I've done, there have been zero references to the word retirement.
Yeah.
So they don't, it's just completely ignored in the entrepreneurial world. So that's reason number 4. People just, it's not top of mind. And so when you put all those different factors together, entrepreneurs as a group are bad about retiring.
Okay, so clearly there's a space, there's an opening, and Matt comes in and he fills it with this fabulous podcast called the Rouge Retirement Lounge. So talk about your podcast, because I love to, well, you don't know because you don't know me very well yet. I love to talk about podcasts. I love my podcasts, and I love podcasters. So tell us a little bit more about the podcast and what we can learn from it.
Well, the podcast I started this year. I started in January, and mainly the reason I started is I needed an outlet just because I'm obsessed with this stuff. But B, again, most of my friends are self-employed, and I'd go to and have happy hour with them, and they'd want to talk about football or whatever. And I'd be hammering them on how much they were saving. And I kind of alienated a couple of them because I'd be like, you're an idiot. You need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do that.
Here comes Matt. Let's go the other way.
Exactly. Yeah. He's going to start hammering me on my savings rate again. So, and that's why I call the podcast the Rouge Retirement Lounge, because it's kind of my substitution for the happy hours that I'm no longer getting invited to. So I can talk about retirement this way instead. And basically, I try to cover multiple topics and try to cover a wide range of knowledge levels. Okay, some people are very advanced, and so I want to talk about macroeconomics, and I want to talk about Bitcoin and hash rates and stuff like that. But then some people are kind of still just beginning and don't really understand how a Roth works. Like in fact, my latest episode was just comparing what's the difference between ETFs and mutual funds, because that's a question that comes up. So I like to cover a little bit of everything, but not just financial. I also like to talk about kind of retirement mindset, things like where you might want to live, travel stuff related to retirement, health, brain health, and other things, just that, things that we need to think about as we approach our senior years and as we approach a time when we might have more spare time than we do today.
I love it. So is it an interview show? Is it mainly you? Is it a weekly show? Tell us a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of the show.
Right now, it's both interview and episodes with just me. In general, I'm trying to do an interview once every 2 weeks, and generally I put out 2 shows a week, one on Monday or Tuesday, and then a news show on Friday. So Friday I put out a retirement news update, and that's where I talk about issues and maybe a little tiny bit of politics when it talks about tax issues. And just things that relate to your retirement that are in the news, and those episodes are on Friday.
I love that. I think that's great. I have not listened to one yet because we just met a short time ago. But that's the next thing I'm going to do on my next walk, which will be tomorrow, because I'm always looking for new, exciting things to check out. So check out Matt's podcast, the Rouge Retirement Lounge. I'm assuming you're on Apple Podcasts, you're on Spotify. Like, I just go and I Google Rouge Retirement Lounge, and I will certainly put a link to the podcast in the show notes below. So Matt, thank you so much. Before we go, I want to, 2 things. First, before we go, I want to give a big shout out to Adam Shibley with Podcasting Business School.
Hey, Adam.
So Adam, I'll put a little link to his. So I met Matt in, Adam has the Pod Pal Zoom party twice a month, where us podcasters get together and we get to meet each other and we get to go on each other's shows. And that's where I met Matt. And I thought Matt would be great for my listeners, because I love your topic and I love what you're doing, because no one does it. So I thank you for that. And I thank Adam for bringing us together. So big shout out to Adam. And then I'll just say, Matt, like, what else do entrepreneurs need to know, or what do they need to, like, how do they start? Give us some final wise words that you would have to entrepreneurs out there who I see in 2 categories. 1, I don't even know that I need one, but hopefully now they do. 2, where do I start? What's the first place that I start? Like, what's your final wise words to all the entrepreneurs out there who are listening to this?
Well, if you're not putting money into an IRA when you first start your business, if you're not putting away money today, when early on, it's going to get harder and harder, because it doesn't get easy. People think when they start their business, it's like, oh, I can't think about retirement right now, because I'm so busy getting my business started. But most entrepreneurs are going to find out you get busier and busier over time. You get more scattered over time. Your business envelops you more over time. So it's the best time to start is right now.
Yeah, I love that, because I when I look at the growth of my business, or I'll just take my podcast. Like, I've been in business for 15 years, but I've had a podcast for 18 months. And I look at what I invested in my podcast and all of the marketing around my podcast and all the things I do around my podcast. And then my podcast starts making money. If I don't there's always more things that I'm going to invest in my podcast mini company, because it's growing, right? So I might add some more people to it. So there's always going to be more ways to soak up the money that I make. But I love the idea, like, just take 10% of everything you make and put it away. Like, take some small little chunk of everything that you make, whether it's $800 or $8,000 or $50,000, take 10% of that and stick it away.
Absolutely.
Because it all adds up. And I love that. Like, I say this all the time, no matter what it is, like, just start somewhere and start today.
Yep. Yeah. What's the old saying? What's the best time to plant a tree 20 years ago? What's the second best time to plant a tree today?
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. All right, Matt, thank you so much. I really have enjoyed having you on. I think what you're doing
Janet.
is awesome. I am going to listen to your podcast. I'm going to promote your podcast. I think it's freaking great. It was great to get to know you. And so thanks for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Janet. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. Before you go, I want to extend a personal invitation to join me in the Break Room Zoom party. Twice a month, I host a gathering of entrepreneurs. You get to promote your business, network with other entrepreneurs, and get exposure when the party is published as an episode on the podcast. Go to www.breakawaybusinesscoaching to learn more and to sign up. It's free, and all the cool business owners are doing it. Can't wait to see you at the next Break Room Zoom party.